Yes, sir.
All right, hello, and good morning to you all. Today we are going to start a new topic, as you can see on the text. On the screen, you can see that language functions, text categories, and text types. So, as you know, since actually we're dealing with translation, so as a translator, when you will start translating different kinds of stuff from different genres, then of course you have to know the different kinds of functions of the same language and also the source text and source language SL and also the TL target language. And at the same time, we must also have a good idea about text categories and text types. That if you don't know as a translator that what is the type of the text, then that will be very much confusing to translate it because it depends on the genre that how your translation will look like. I mean, your final outcome or output of the translation work, that how it would look, it depends on the text types. And in between, we have language functions, then we have to consider the equivalence and other stuff while actually we are dealing with it. Now, I'll move on to the second slide. There you can see. Okay, now, here, as you can see, according to Buhler, the three main functions of language are expressive, the informative, which is, he called it representation, and the vocative functions. So these are the main purposes of language. I will explain, I mean, what are these things? We have the definitions here, so you don't need to worry about it. Just try to familiarize yourself with with these, I mean, words and phrases. So you can see the language functions, three main functions: expressive, informative, vocative. Okay? Can you repeat after me, please? What are those functions of the language? Expressive? Say it.
The informative.
Expressive, informative, and vocative. Okay? So these are the three different functions of language. Now, among these, you can see the informative, it has another name. We also call it representation. And you know, informative means it will be full of information, right?
Right, sir.
And expressive means that will express emotion or maybe, I mean, whatever actually you will find in the source text, so you will try to express it also. You will transfer or transmit that expression into the target text. So that's why that is called expressive. And vocative, you can see, that is appeal. I hope you know the meaning of the word appeal. That means vocative or appeal means how actually that language appeals to you. What does it mean? Okay, how, and also it is called addressing. All right. So we have expressive function, we have informative function, and we have vocative function. So these are the three main functions of language. Now, the core of the expressive function is the mind of the speaker, the writer, the originator of the utterance. So the core of the expressive function is the mind of the speaker, the writer, the originator of the utterance. For example, I wrote a novel in Bangla, and you are the translator, and you want to translate it into English. So when you want to translate it into English, then you have to consider the expressive function first. How? You will think that how, as a writer, how actually I try to express it and what was going on in my mind. Because I am the originator of the text or the utterance, and I'm the speaker. So you have to give value to my feelings, to my expressions. And then you have to try to translate that expression or feelings, and you have to translate and you have to transmit into the target text. That means in English. Understood what I'm saying? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now he means the original writer. For example, I wrote it in Bangla and you want to translate it into English. So he means I. He uses the utterance to express his feelings irrespective of any response. So you see, I didn't expect any response. I just wrote it as a writer and my feelings are there. For the purpose of translation, I think the characteristics, I mean, the author of the textbook, and here actually I took it from a textbook of translation, and it's by Peter Newman. So I took this chapter from Peter Newman because I found it very convenient and very useful. You will not find it in your text. The Introduction to Translational Studies by Jeremy Mundell, I mean, you don't find this chapter there. So I took it from a different text. Now, so this I mean, is the Peter Newmark. He is saying that he's thinking that the characteristic expressive text types are. Now he's talking about the expressive function. Now he is also giving us more about the expressive function. That what are the characteristics of expressive text types? Okay, so you see, this is the function, and at the same time, those texts we are also calling them expressive text. Got it? The function of the language is expressive. That means it will express feelings, emotions, and the types of the text we'll call them expressive text types. Is that okay? One is function of the language, another is types of the text. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's great. Now here we see, in the expressive function, now he is saying that these are the text types. When you consider the language of the text, and if you find that that is expressive function, that means it deals with the expression of feelings, then you have to categorize the texts, the types of the text. So first one is serious imaginative literature. So you see, the expressive function of the language is to express your feelings, your emotion. Okay, so you see, the first thing that we will get out of this linguistic function or language function, that is imaginative literature, and that is serious kind of. In the imaginative literature, in Bengali we call it kalpana probon বা kalpana নির্ভর সাহিত্য বা কাল্পনিক সাহিত্য আমরা যেটাকে বলি ফিকশন। এই কল্পনা প্রবণ সাহিত্যে আমাদের এক্সপ্রেশনটা বেশি আসবে না, ইমোশনটা বেশি কাজ করে না, কারণ আমি টোটাল জিনিসটা তো কনকক্টেড। কিছুটা হয়তো সত্যের বিষয় থাকলেও থাকতে পারে, কিন্তু অধিকাংশই কি হচ্ছে, আমি আমার ব্রেইন থেকে কল্পনা করে নিয়ে সেটা আমি লেখার চেষ্টা করছি। Got it? Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
আর যখনই আমি কল্পনা থেকে নিয়ে লেখার চেষ্টা করব, তার মানে কি ওর মধ্যে আমার প্রচুর ইমোশন ফিলিংস গুলো সব আমার পার্সোনাল, ভেরি মাচ সাবজেক্টিভ। তখন ওই জিনিসগুলো তার কনকমিটেন্ট কিংবা আমরা যেটাকে অনুষঙ্গ হিসেবে সেগুলো চলে আসে, রাইট? এই জন্য বলছে যে এক্সপ্রেসিভ ফাংশন যে ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, আমরা যখন এটা নিয়ে কাজ করি তার অধীনে আমরা এই জাতীয় টেক্সট গুলো পেয়ে থাকি। সো সিরিয়াস ইমাজিনেটিভ লিটারেচার। So of the four principal types, so there are four kinds of imaginative literature, serious imaginative literature. One is lyrical poetry, short stories, novels, and plays. Means also lyrical poetry. So the lyrical poetry, he's focusing on the lyrical poetry, then how is it? So we have four different kinds. One is lyrical poetry, that is poetry, short stories, novels, and plays. Yeah, we know it very well that these are imaginative. Okay. Now, lyrical poetry is the most intimate expression, while plays are more evidently addressed to a large audience, which in the translation is entitled to some assistance with cultural expressions. That's true. Now, let me explain it to you. So you see the lyrical poetry, for example, the songs that we know, they are lyrical poetry, right? The songs that we hear every day. So all these songs, they're lyrical poetry. And also ballad, it's a kind of lyrical poetry. So in these lyrical poetries, you can see the expression is very intimate, that is very personal. So our expressions are very much personal, isn't it? In the songs, okay? So what do you hear? It's a very personal expressions of the writer, of the songwriter. That's his personal expression. That's why we feel very touched, because that is very subjective. Understood what I'm saying? Because it's based on imagination, and that's why it is intimate expression. Do you follow me what I'm saying, dear students? Do you follow me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So just see that how these emotions and these kind of expressions, actually, how do they play their roles here? And it's very important to focus on it. Now, so lyrical poetry is very much subjective, very much intimate, very much personal. And plays, on the other hand, you can see evidently addressed to a large audience. So you see, lyrical poetry, usually we take it very personally, but plays, we enjoy plays sitting in the sitting in the audience. That means in front of you there is a stage, and you're in the audience and you're enjoying the plays. Usually that is the idea of plays. আমরা বাংলায় যেটাকে বলি মঞ্চ নাটক। আমি মঞ্চের নাটক হচ্ছে আর আমি সামনে কাতারে অডিয়েন্সের ওখানে দর্শক শ্রোতার কাতারে বসে আমি সেটা দেখছি। সো এই জন্য এটা এক্সপ্রেশনটা অত ইন্টিমেট না, ইটস a little bit objective, and lots of people they are watching it together, so you cannot influence its persons, with your single word. It's not like that as we do with the lyrical poetry. আমরা একটা প্রেমের কবিতা বা প্রেমের গান শুনলে পার্সোনালি আমরা ওটা খুব এনজয় করি না, এবং ওটা নিয়ে আমরা খুব আবেগ আপ্লুত হই, কিংবা we feel very thrilled and moved, right?
Right, sir.
So that's the idea. So here we see, so evidently addressed to a large audience, which in the translation is entitled to some assistance with cultural expressions. Now here you see, in the lyrical poetry, when you talk about love, usually, and you see the volume or the length of the lyrical poetry is very short. If you compare it with a play is quite long, right? Sometimes it's huge. But lyrical poetry, I mean the song or lyric, is just 1 or 2 pages. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that's why you can be very much subjective. But when actually you are writing a play and when you're translating plays, what you have to do, you have to consider the culture. So cultural expressions are there along with the personal emotions. It is also imaginative, obviously, but at the same time, it is not that much expressive, just like the lyrical poetry, because that is very intimate, that is very personal, very private. Okay. Now we have authoritative statements in the expressive function. Now, these are texts of any nature which derive their authority from the high status of the reliability and linguistic competence of the authors. You can see it from the very title, that authoritative statements. That means the author himself, he will exert a kind of authority over the text. That means whatever actually he is saying, usually that is very, you can say, axiomatic, that is very proverbial, and you have to follow it, you have to listen to him because he is the authority. He has that knowledge, or maybe he is in the power and you have to listen to his words. Okay, you remember Francis Bacon and his essays? You see, in the Francis Bacon, in his essays and even in his philosophy, you can find that Francis Bacon is very much authoritative. Actually, he is dictating you. He's saying that, okay, you have to do this, like of friendship, of studies, of love,
Of
remember?
marriage.
Of
Of
marriage and
marriage.
single life.
Exactly, of marriage and single life. Yes, you see, so in all these texts, he is suggesting, and he's also asking us that do this, do that. He didn't leave any option. Of his studies, what are the types of the studies and how actually we should read as a reader. So he's suggesting all these things, remember that. Actually, he's not suggesting it, he's just dictating you that these are the things and you have to believe it. So these are the authoritative statements. So this is also a kind of expression of his personal authority has been expressed, in that text. These are texts of any nature which derive the authority from the high status or the reliability and linguistic competence of the authors. So the authors, they are in the authority, so they have linguistic competence, they are reliable, they are highly knowledgeable, they are highly respected in the society, they're esteemed and they're valued. So that's why we rely on their text and we rely on their words, and they have the chance to be authoritative. Okay, do you get my point? Because they're in the power. Maybe he's a very famous philosopher. Obviously, Francis Bacon is a very famous philosopher. In the medieval philosophy at that time. He started this idea of the Renaissance in the European philosophy. So there you can see that how he was revered and he was in the power. He was a statesman. He was a diplomat, and he was a philosopher. He was a scientist. All these things together in one man. So certainly he can take the privilege of being authoritative over his audience or readers. Got it? That's why he's saying that reliability, that means he's a higher status, the author, and also he has a different kind of linguistic competence. That means here you can say, he is a good orator, he's a good writer, that people would listen to him. So that's why he would enjoy of being authoritative in his text. Such texts have the personal stamp of their authors, although they are denotative or not connotative. Typical authoritative statements are political speeches, documents, etc., by ministers or party leaders. Then statutes and legal documents, scientific, philosophical, and academic works written by acknowledged authorities. So here you see, I have already mentioned it, that these people, they are ministers, they are statesmen, they are diplomats, okay, they are philosophers, they are academicians. So that's why actually they write or they say things in such a way that you can find his, as it has been said, it's very nicely touched here, personal stamp of their authors. That means you can find the personal sign, you can find the personal, I mean, is very personal touch of their authors, of the authors. You can find it there. That means they are very authoritative because there's people like this. They're ministers or party leaders, and also especially in the legal works, legal documents, and also political speeches. There actually you'll find these kind of speeches. For example, if you take the speech of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, then you can find it there. The way actually he was the only leader actually who could lead at that time, and he took that opportunity and he guided us. I mean, during the 1971 and even at that time and before that, he was saying that what we should do. Remember that in the his race course speech, when actually he said that তোমাদের যার যা কিছু আছে তাই নিয়ে নেমে পড়ো এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতা সংগ্রাম, isn't it a kind of authoritative speech? এটা কর্তৃত্ব করার একটা স্টেটমেন্ট না? উনি কেন বলতে পেরেছেন? উনি ওই জায়গায় ছিলেন। এখন আমি যাই বললে কি লোকে আমার কথা শুনবেন, আমাকে পাগল বলতে বল। বঙ্গবন্ধু বললে সেটা পাগলামি না, সেটা লিডারের কথা, কারণ তিনি সেইভাবে সবকিছু রেডি করেছেন। আর কিন্তু আমি বললে সেটা হবে পাগলামি, বুঝতে পেরেছো? এই জাতীয় স্পিচ গুলো, পলিটিক্যাল স্পিচ গুলো, স্টেটমেন্ট গুলো হয় হচ্ছে অথরিটেটিভ স্টেটমেন্ট। সো আমার টেক্সট টাইপ বুঝতে হবে, আমি কোন টেক্সট আমি অনুবাদ করছি। আমি কি তোমাদেরকে বোঝাতে পারছি কথাটা?
জি স্যার।
জি স্যার।
অল অফ ইউ? সুতরাং তারা হচ্ছেন অ্যাকনলেজড অথরিটিস। আমি জানি উনি বঙ্গবন্ধু, আমি জানি উনি বাংলাদেশের প্রথম প্রধানমন্ত্রী তাজউদ্দিন আহমেদ, উনি বললে লোকজন শুনবে, বিকজ দে আর দ্য অ্যাকনলেজড অথরিটিস। তারা হচ্ছেন সর্বস্বীকৃত কর্তৃত্ব, কিংবা বলতে পারো সর্বস্বীকৃত তারা কর্তৃত্ব পরায়ণ লোক, বা তারা সেই টাইপের লোক, তারা ওই স্টেটাসে আছেন। সুতরাং এই স্টেটমেন্টস গুলো অনুবাদের সময় তাদের আমাকে এক্সপ্রেশন গুলো খেয়াল করতে হবে যে কিভাবে বলছেন। আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড? Or our prime ministers or our ministers, the way actually they gave lectures, and if you give lectures and if you really try to want to translate them, then you have to think about this expressive function of the language, and also the text starts, they are authoritative kind of statements. So you have to be very much aware of that, otherwise there is a possibility that you will mistranslate it and people will get the wrong notion, and you'll be in trouble, obviously, because you're not translating simple text, because you're translating text written or spoken by the people in the power or authorities. Now, autobiographic expressive function, we have another type of text that you can see: autobiography, essays, and personal correspondence. And you understand autobiography means if I write my own biography, if I write about myself, that is autobiography. And essays, obviously essays are the very personal touch, you can find it there. And personal correspondence. Personal correspondence means letters. For example, if I write a letter to Fahim, so maybe actually I'm writing things there, right? I'm writing different kinds of stuff there. So that is very, personal correspondence, because I'm writing very personal stuff. Expressing my personal thing with Fahim, and I'm not expressing those things with other people, right? I'm not expressing, or I'm not exchanging those ideas with other people. So that is very personal correspondence. And I'm saying fine not to express or not to share those things with others. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So these are expressive when they're personal effusions, when the readers are a remote background. So readers are from a remote background. Okay. And you can see the personal effusions means that is the, you can say the explosion of personal emotions, that is full of personal emotions is there. Here effusions means that comes out of you. It's like a flux, প্রবাহের মতো। যখন তোমার ব্যক্তিগত যে ইমোশনস এগুলো যখন একদম ভিতর থেকে বেরিয়ে আসে, ইফিউশনস হয়, সেটাকে বলা হচ্ছে পার্সোনাল ইফিউশনস। মানে ব্যক্তিগত বা তোমার নিজস্ব যেই আবেগগুলো যখন তোমার লেখাতে চলে আসে, অটোবায়োগ্রাফি লিখবার সময় যেটা হতে পারে আমার ক্ষেত্রে, রাইট? So that we call the personal effusions. So you see there the autobiography, essays, and personal correspondence, we can find the touch of the personal expressions very much. It's not authoritative, but it's very, you can say, it's very emotional. Okay, and sometimes these things are very soft. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when actually you want to try to translate, for example, letters written by Kazi Nazrul Islam to Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore actually he wrote letters to Kazi Nazrul Islam, because when Nazrul Islam actually when he was imprisoned, Tagore actually he wrote letters to him, and also he dedicated one of his texts to poet Nazrul. So you see, those things are, for example, and even different writers. Sometimes actually they have different kinds of correspondence among themselves. Okay, and these are very personal. Later on, when they are dead, and after their death, posthumously, I mean after their death, those texts are published and translated in different languages, so to show that what kind of personal correspondence did they have during their lifetime. Understood what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so I'd just like to stop it here today. Just one, these functions of the language that we have discussed today, that is expressive function. So we are left with other two and also their types. So in our next lecture, inshallah, we will be talking about those. Okay, now, do you have any question today from today's lecture?
Sir, I have a confusion. That is,
Yes.
you said they're um, expressive,
Mhm.
informative,
Mhm.
or vocative. So,
Yes.
sir, the expressive part there is short story, novel,
Yeah,
poetry or
we have serious imaginative literature. So there we have lyrical poetry, short stories, novels, and plays. Yes, and also we have
sir,
authoritative statements like scientific
sir,
papers, philosophical documents. Yes, yes, yes.
sir, the authority types and the autobiographical expression, they are the part of expressive
Function,
function.
expressive function of the language. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Because your emotion, as when you're authoritative is giving the authoritative statements, then your emotions comes out of you, right? And then you try to prove those emotions. For example, if you just listen to the, speech. After this class, if you have time, just go back to the YouTube, and then you can search the Bangabandhu's speeches from there. And if you just take a look at it, just see that how emotional are they. They're full of instruction, guidance, and you can find the leadership quality, and at the same time, they're emotional. Because as a leader, you have to elicit the emotions of the other people by being emotional by yourself. Do you understand me? If I'm a robot, then do you really think that I can elicit emotion from, from my audience? Is it possible?
No, sir.
Only an emotional person actually, he can elicit or bring out the emotion out of of the listeners. Otherwise, it's not possible because you have to say something emotional to make people emotional, right? In the authoritative statements, you can find this, the combination of all, or you can find the amalgamation of all these kinds of things, because it is at the end of the day that is full of personal emotions of the authors or the writers or the speakers. Okay, anything else?
Okay, sir. No, sir.
All right.
Sir,
Yes,
sir,
yes.
we have missed deny and Darwin's model translation studies. We have missed this class due to sir internet.
Which class actually you're talking about?
Sir, ওই যে ট্রান্সলেশন
Then,
স্ট্র্যাটেজিস বিনয় অ্যান্ড ডার্বাল নেটসের যে মডেলটা ছিল
Oh, I didn't take that class,
স্যার আপনি শুরু করছিলেন তখন মানে
but I couldn't
নেটের
finish it.
কারণে পরে ইয়েস স্যার
Okay,
yes,
okay.
sir.
Thanks for the reminder. Okay, in the next class, in that case, what do you suggest? Should I start with that? As
শিওর
I have
স্যার
left it, I have left it incomplete, so I will finish it first, and then after that, then we'll finish this one. Okay.
ইয়েস স্যার
Okay,
আপনার
sir.
তো রেডি করাই আছে শুধু
Okay, no problem, no problem. Yes, thanks for the reminder. Thank you very much. Thank you.
থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার
All right, then, if you don't have any question about our today's lecture, then I'd like to conclude it here. Will that be okay? Done?
জান
Okay, sir.
Done, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience, and hope to see you next time, inshallah. Take care of yourself
থ্যাংক ইউ
and have a good day.